Hi, very good afternoon to you. It's Gene from Maverickstar Observatory. Welcome. Guys, I hear a lot of people talk about the New World Order, but I am confused with, who some people feel that the New World Order is. I'll just say look no further than the United Nations. They're holding COP27 from the 6th of November to the 18th of November, so it's ongoing right now as we speak. And I believe that this is like a mafia organisation. They are telling us that President Putin is responsible for the energy hike right now, but it is these people that all got together and deliberately put up the prices of energy so that they could wax themselves rich. It's nothing short of an organised group of mafia. They're getting away with it blind in front of everybody. But the main point is here, is not one of these people are elected by a single person from any country that they represent. It's nothing to do with Vladimir Putin and the Ukraine war. It's to do with them, being greedy, and in more than one way. Let me just put a few things in perspective. They don't, like they claim, represent transparency. If you want their version of transparency, by all means go over to the United Nations website and search COP27. You'll get their version of transparency. It will read something like this. Man is responsible for an increase in CO2 in the upper atmosphere, which has led to the climate changing on our planet in a way that is warming it. But the truth is, our planet has been cooling for the last 10 years, year on, year out. You can see the red line on this chart at the top of all the other lines that go back to 2012, and is very close at this point in time to the average, which represents the 1972 to the 2021 line. I believe it will surpass it in a few years' time. But the point is, again, we have people like Al Gore that claimed there would not be no ice by 2014 over the Arctic Circle, and that man would make extinct polar bears, and that children would never see snow in their lives again. These are the people that represent the United Nations, and these are the people that are changing our ways of life unelectedly. They call this a democratic system. Who was democratically elected in the United Nations by anyone in the countries that they represent? This is an organised crime gang, and supported by governments around the world. And this is why things need to change, because as long as this goes on, more suffering comes each to every one of us and our loved ones. You couldn't really make this up, but the fact is the average person out there isn't aware of all the facts. That's what we're trying to do on this channel, bring the facts to you. On the left hand side, on the blue pie chart, that represents the total amount of CO2 in our atmosphere right now. On the left is the contribution that man puts towards the CO2 in the atmosphere. And down there on the left at the bottom, you can see 446 parts per million naturally occurring and 0.012% parts per million man-made. The oceans and the land naturally pour out millions of gigatons more than what we do. Our actual input to CO2 in the atmosphere is minuscule. It would not change anything. That means that whatever is causing climate change on our Earth right now is nothing to do with CO2 at all. Therefore it must be something else. If we look at some of the dramatic changes to the climate, we go back to the 1990s, we see that at the very same time of that, an increase in the magnetic poles. Why has no other climatologist or geophysicist physicist came to the same conclusion, that the Earth's magnetic poles migrating, which is a rare anomaly, might be responsible for this. Or even, why have they not come to the conclusion that we are 6,000 to 8,000 years returning back into a glacial period, and that CO2 naturally rises during an interglacial period, which we are on the back of? You won't see this level of transparency demonstrated in Egypt during these next few days whilst COP27 takes place, because it simply would mean the end of their net zero by 30, carbon net zero, which is what they're trying to achieve, and in doing so driving up the costs of living, causing living crises for everyone around the world. This is by no coincidence a global issue, that there is a global recession now. This has been directly caused by, I believe, the United Nations. Why would they do that? Well, they've had interest rates at low percentages for quite a while, which has encouraged people to borrow money, and now they're starting to whack the interest rates up. You check out if I'm telling the truth or not, have a look for the facts. And on the back of inflation being as high as it is, we're in a time now that represents close coincidence, I don't believe, to 1929 during the Great Depression. Yet they're calling it a recession. Here in the UK they've promised the recession will last for 2 years, but this will go on for a lot longer than that. This is not a recession, it's a Great Depression that has been naturally caused by that organisation. You can see on this chart that we are at the end of an interglacial period, estimated to be 6,000 to 8,000 years, returning into a glacial period. And as we can see, in the past 450,000 years, the CO2 drops as soon as we leave the interglacial period. And I believe, from even the recordings of CO2 that we've been doing it at the time that we have at the observatory, we are starting to see the parts per million already reduce. On the same time, we are starting to see the ice rebound. These two things make a lot of sense, especially when you look at this chart, because this chart shows us the future of what is about to occur with our climate on this earth. And we have, on the back of this, a magnetic reversal taking place. You certainly won't see charts like this being discussed at COP27 or by the United Nations, because this reveals way too much truth. As you can see, we have twofold problem or anomalies that are causing the same problem. First, the grand solar minimum, due to low sun spots and output, leads to a weakened heliosphere, which is like that bubble that protects our atmosphere in a similar manner that our magnetosphere protects our planet, which leads to an increase in cosmic rays in Earth's upper atmosphere. We also have a magnetic pole reversal, leads to a weakened magnetosphere, which is our primary protective shield from inbound cosmic rays, but it also leads to an increase in the cosmic rays in the Earth's upper atmosphere. And these mix with the upper atmospheric particles that allow water vapour to condense, forming water droplets. The water droplets enter these jet streams, increasing the mass and velocity of the jet stream, in turn changing the behaviour, i.e. polar jet streams mixing with subtropical jet streams, and this creates abnormal jet streams and changes in the global climate. But there is also now another anomaly which has been prominent over the equatorial region, and this is what is delivering 1,000-year record-breaking floods in countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan and other parts of the world. Not just horrific floods, But with that also comes land and mudslides, and this has led to, affecting and displacing millions of people around the world. And it's okay for me and you, whilst probably we're eating our lunch right now, listening to this, because it hasn't affected us, but that is only by sheer luck, because we are starting to see the climatic events gear up, and we anticipate in the not too distant future, maybe in the next 5 or so months, these could ramp up greatly, even more so. It is bad already, but it is going to get worse, and the reason why I say that is because we have not reached equilibrium yet. We've not seen another acceleration in the Earth's magnetic pole like we did from the 1990s, but it's certainly from the 1990s that we have seen the gradual increases in floods and climatic disasters. Nobody, it seems, from the scientific community is prepared to come out and speak of these events as they are occurring. And that is because the United Nations has a valid interest in keeping those people silent. Here's what happens to scientists that try and speak out against the grain of such issues that we've talked about in this video. Channel violations for talking about vaccines and demonetisation, and no ever sign of it ever returning. We're just trying to help, raise a few funds by putting a few adverts on there, which some of the subscribers have suggested I do. I've tried to do it and I've been not approved. It's because of the topics I talk about. They say and claim we live in a democracy, but at the heart of any democracy, would you not agree with me, has to be freedom of speech. I'm not a terrorist. I'm not telling people to go out there and harm others. Quite to the contrary. I'm telling people to be supportive in their communities and help each other, and be aware of what these climatic events can cause, and be ready at that time should they ever occur in your neighbourhood and to your friends and family and loved ones. Trying to raise money for the observatory is becoming very difficult, because we are, I believe, are having paid people come onto this comment section down below and deliberately cause trouble. It's not just them, it's other people that run YouTube channels themselves. I had an email off one of them, very popular, and I couldn't believe it, what he's claiming in the email. I'm not going to mention his name, but he knows who he is. I just told him to stop being pathetic and leave me alone. He's constantly been emailing me now for the last 4 months. I don't know what his problem is. It's clear that when I say to people on this channel that we are not selling goods in order to make profits, we don't see any merchandise. I'm not charging people on my website for specific information. The reason why I don't do that is because in a lot of these parts of the world where these things are happening, the salaries of these people is less in some cases than $1 a day. I could not take 20 cents off somebody that got paid $1 a day. Yet I absolutely want them to receive this information just as much as anybody else. We run this bloody channel like a church. It's left down to donations. People's choice. We don't charge a figure of anything. We just ask that people help out, and not be selfish. We have 55,000 subscribers. I am tired of people saying to me, you know what, if just 55,000 people give you 10p, you'd raise thousands for your observatory every month. But I tell them, you have no idea of the situation currently at hand with that what you just said. because it would never happen. People don't really work together like that in this day and age. People distrust what you say, yet you show them facts. It's a very difficult situation and a very difficult time to be in because of, the corruption. The respect for the voluntary actions of people these days doesn't go rewarded. Instead we see people like Barack Obama getting the Nobel Peace Prize. And what really hurts me about that fact is that, one of the runners-up for the Nobel Peace Prize was a woman during the Second World War that smuggled out in her toolkit hundreds of children from these death camps. I think it was even Auschwitz in Poland. What did Barack Obama do greater than this woman? I ask you. The Nobel Peace Prize has become a joke. We see people like Al Gore getting the Nobel Peace Prize for predicting the Arctic Circle would be free of ice by 2014. There's the transparency we are not seeing from these organisations, and it is deliberately caused. They will not just stop at demonetising somebody, they will not just stop at giving them strikes, but scientists that have tried to come out and warn you people have lost their entire careers, ridiculed, and in some cases bumped off, and I kid you not. This is the transparency you will not see at COP26. 27. And these are the facts. And this is what we face at this observatory. People are only too well and willing to come and criticise what we do at this observatory, yet we run almost a charity, than they are to criticise, those that are running the United Nations, those that are driving these genders. And remember what came out of one of these organisations not so long back. By 2030 you will own nothing and be happy. You tell me one person that lives on the street that hardly owns anything apart from the body that he's got. You tell me he's happy. Because if somebody tells me that when you've got nothing you're happy, I think that would be the representation of delusion. Guys, I think you get my picture. I think you understand the facts that we produce. I think you know deep down the truth is there. And what is stopping you supporting an observatory like ours? At a time of almost crisis, what is stopping you supporting, a small amount of people that are giving this information freely to the most poorest people in this world, so that they can avoid a catastrophe, so that them and their loved ones can avoid a catastrophe, so that you and your loved ones at some point might divert a catastrophic event that you could be caught up in. The link is down there in the description. It's as simple as that. If you're not prepared to take on these people head to head, then why not the hell support somebody that is prepared to go all out to do what he can? Link is down there. Only thing to say at this point, guys, is I hope that you are well, your loved ones are safe, and I'll say what I usually do. Bye for now.